Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa iti namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa iti namine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Narayana 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 Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana 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 Gopala Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Sarupaya Radha Krishna Prastate Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur-Bhakta-Vridam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bol Namaste. Hare Bol. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending this program. Today we will continue the guidance that has been given to us by our spiritual master, coming from Lord Krishna, this descending method of parampara, through the guidance of our dearmost friend, our spiritual master, His Divine Grace, Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, who is the dearmost disciple of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So I'll read here how we can be guided to achieve the goal of life, to be in harmony with the will of God, to be able to experience God's pleasure upon us, that will give the living entity, us, a foundation for our real, eternal happiness, which is doing the will of God, pleasing God. Through the guidance of His Divine Grace, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, we're able to have this foundation of our eternality, that we are a different energy from matter, life. And not only that, He gave us this wisdom, which Lord Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of God, passed on and was translated by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami into English. And our dear spiritual master is able to educate us with this wisdom coming from Lord Vyasadeva. It is the wonder of the disciplic succession that the teachings of God coming down to this unbroken chain of spiritual masters is handed to us now, and we're very fortunate to take this advantage, to be able to have this wisdom, this wealth that is eternally connected with us, which we have forgotten. And the reason we have forgotten it is because of material disease. And what is that material disease? It is false bodily identification, that we have become materialists, identifying ourselves with matter. And not only that, we've been trying to do something that is not in harmony with our true nature, that we're eternally the loving servant of God. We are now trying to dominate material nature, which we're thinking we can overcome. But in the end, we become subjugated. We become servant of the senses. We are driven now by a force that it's very hard to control. And we have become enslaved. And in the process, it has struggled. It has become a struggle for us to enter that world of transcendence, wherein we are not and we should not be touched by this temporary moving world. And this science, I'll read to you now, coming from the teachings of Lord Vyasadeva, which was translated into English by the disciples of Lord Chaitanya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and explained to us clearly by our Gurudev, who loves us so much, who has so much compassion upon us, who has unconditional love for us, who is our well-wisher. Accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, verse 21, Prabhupada tells Maharaj Nimi, "My dear king, please know for certain that in the material world there is no happiness. It is simply a mistake to think that there is happiness here, because this place is full of nothing but miserable conditions. Any person who is seriously desirous of achieving real happiness must seek out a bona fide spiritual master and take shelter of him by initiation. The qualification of a spiritual master is that he must have realized the conclusion of the scriptures by deliberation and arguments, and thus be able to convince others of this conclusion. Such great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations, are to be understood as bona fide spiritual masters. Everyone should try to find such a bona fide spiritual master in order to fulfill his mission of life, which is to transfer himself to the plane of spiritual bliss. The purport is that one should not accept as a spiritual master someone who is a fool number one, who has no directions according to scriptural injunction, whose character is doubtful, who does not follow the principles of devotional service, or who has not conquered the influence of the six gratifying agents. The six agents of material gratification are the tongue, the genitals, the belly, anger, the mind, and the words. Anyone who has practiced controlling these six is permitted to make disciples all over the world. To accept such a spiritual master is the crucial point for advancement in spiritual life. One who is fortunate enough to come under the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master is sure to traverse the path of spiritual salvation without a doubt. Years back, our dear spiritual master explained to us that the bona fide spiritual master have completely understood and realized his true identity. He knows that he is transcendental to this material world. Sat, Chit, wisdom. Sat, transcendence. Chit, wisdom. This transcendental wisdom being passed on by the saintly person can guide us to enter a world, our true nature, a real happiness. My spiritual teacher gave an example of a fish who is out of the water on the seashore. He's gasping for air to survive. He's not in his natural habitat. For the fish to survive, he must go back to the water. For us to experience, to be in a world of transcendence, not touched by this miserable world wherein we experience this connection with God in harmony with His wishes, then we must follow the instruction. Just like when a person is sick, the doctor gives him medicine. If he takes the medicine, he gets well. Or, for example, you have toothache. There's pus inside. It's infected. So, the solution is to extract the teeth. This rotten teeth that gives you so much pain. So by understanding our true nature and acting upon it under the guidance of the spiritual master,
He gives us activities, and it is centered around devotional service. And the Supreme Lord is so kind to come as the holy names. So when we chant the holy names, we are actually, in reality, engaging in devotional service. So I'll read to you here the situation, our situation, and we can identify with it and seek solution. Lord Krishna is describing this body, this field of activity we have, this material body, the senses. The senses are so strong and impetuous. O Arjuna, they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. And another verse, one who restrains his senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Now the question is, how can we fix the mind, our senses, so it will not be impetuous or act lackadaisically or acting without consideration, doing rashly or hastily. The senses are very strong. So the mind also has so many desires. So when the living entity, us, we want to do our own will, we are given this field of activity by God, and we try to play Lord. So what happened is that we are now like a person riding on a chariot without rein, and all the senses, the tongue, the ears, the genitals, the eyes are like horses going in different direction, and we're there helpless. We cannot control it. We have no rein. We have no control over the mind and the desires in the mind, which forces us to find happiness, because now we are being forced by a force that is greater than us. It is lust, the desire to find fulfillment in this material dimension and try to control and try to fulfill what we are longing for so long that it slips to us whenever we try to get it. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So in this age of quarrel and confusion, through the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, our dearmost friend, Srila Prabhupada, he has given us these transcendental holy names of God, which are non-different from God. I'll tell you a story years back, about almost 40 years ago. Relatively speaking, we were so young physically, and we met Srila Prabhupada. And during the fire sacrifice, it was initiation day. And there's a fire sacrifice. Our Gurudev have accepted us as his disciples. But we don't know what's the meaning of a disciple. We're just wide-eyed looking at him. And during the fire sacrifice, Srila Prabhupada is offering food to the fire, which is Lord Krishna. And he bends to get the banana. He bends to get the food. And all of us are just watching. And then he gave a lecture to us. Not a lecture, an advice of our situation. He said, even though you're now in front of supposedly someone you're accepting as your spiritual master, you cannot see. And he said, that is how Maya or illusion, material nature, is very strong. That even in front of the person who's your spiritual master, you cannot see him. Even though he bends, he tries to offer, we're there just like uh, watching him instead of assisting him. And he said, Maya is very strong. But anyway, I have accepted you as my disciple. You're all alone. But don't worry, the disciplic succession is there to assist you. You can pray, you can ask their assistance. And after hearing that, he left. But when he left, he gave us so many lectures. It is my desire to have those lectures. But unfortunately, we have very few lectures of our spiritual master. And we humbly beg those who are keepers of those lectures to share to us so we can be guided. So we can also help others. Because this transcendental science is eternal. It's living knowledge. So we humbly beg our God brothers, our God sisters, to share to us all those teachings that will benefit us, that will enthuse our desire to do the will of God. It's in your hands now. So I'll read to you here the activities that our spiritual master has given us. He invited Lord Chaitanya to come as the deity. And he gave us instruction to worship Lord Chaitanya. Gauranga is to chant the holy names, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra through his ears, to be in meditation upon Radha and Krishna combined, and his happiness is remembering and hearing the holy names. So he's guiding us how we can be in harmony with the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. He's inviting us to enter the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And not only that, we're given this opportunity to be also taking part in his work to please His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, to enter that world, the world of love. Here I read to you the teachings of Lord Krishna. It is about someone who is in union, in yoga, in yoke with the will of God. And this is exemplified by those devotees, those great personalities who have succeeded in their life. So the process we follow is perfect because it is been experienced done personally by great personalities who have succeeded in pleasing and doing the will of God. They are our guidance. They are those individuals we should emulate and follow. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to have attained yoga. So the process of purification is God Himself, the holy names given to us by our dear friend, His Divine Grace, Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. He introduces to us God. He teaches us how to embrace God, to do the will of God, that our heart, our being will be focused upon pleasing and tasting that love. So when we carry on our activities in this material world, it's very painful because we experience so much hindrance. Our body is getting old, diseases, miseries caused by Mother Nature, miseries caused by other living entities, miseries caused by the mind. There's so much destruction. But because spiritual energy, the divine energy of God, supersede material nature, is more powerful because material energy comes from God. So if we are in harmony with this transcendental nature of God, then our life, there is relief. Just like when in our place here, in Bukidnon, it's drought. No rain. It's so hard. You know, you plant, they die. So muggy, always perspiring. But if there's rain, then there's relief. So when we are connected with our true nature, a spirit, soul, life, and in harmony, following the wisdom that is given to us to do what is pleasing to God, the embrace of God, the chanting of the holy names, to enter that world, then our mind becomes subservient. My spiritual master gave this example. The mind are like serpents, like snakes. The mind is like a serpent, and the senses, different snakes. They bite you. And there's this venom that you become paralyzed. When you're bitten by a cobra, immediately your nervous system gets affected. You cannot move. You become immobile. You become into coma. But if you chant the holy names of God, you're in harmony with this transcendental world of pleasing and doing the will of God. If it's not pleasing to God, I will not do it. And it is being guided under the instruction of our spiritual master in Scripture to always do what is pleasing to God. And it's based upon our love. For so long we have forgotten what is real love, transcendental love. It has become lust, and we are trying to engage in activities, in many, many activities. These activities are engulfing us to become free from this ocean. Just like we have become, to make, my spiritual master gave an analogy. It's like this insect identifying himself as the body. In the morning, there's this spider web. When touched by the sun, it sparkles. But there's a hitch because the spider is there waiting. So the insect goes to that web, gets stuck up. His nose gets stuck. His hands get stuck. His legs get stuck. The more he gets away, the more he gets stuck. So it's a hopeless case. But if someone can pick him up, but not pull him, take all those spider web, he can become free. So that is our situation. The spiritual master picks us from this spider web. So to make it clear, from this ocean wherein we are drowning, he picks us up, embraces us, and help us. So I'll give to you this purport of His divine grace, of someone who follows, who have made his life doing the will of God to please God. And this is exemplified by great saintly person, Maharaj Shambharis. I'll read first Lord Krishna's instruction. When the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to have attained yoga. The activities of the yogi are distinguished from those of an ordinary person by the characteristics: cessation from all material desires, of which sex is the object, sex is the chief. A perfect yogi is so well disciplined in the activities of the mind that he can no longer be disturbed by any kind of material desire. This perfectional stage can be automatically be attained by a person in Krishna consciousness, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam. King Ambaris is an emperor who is a great Vaishnava, who is a great saintly person, a devotee of God. King Ambaris first of all engaged his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, Krishna. Then one after another, he engaged his words in describing the transcendental qualities of the Lord, his hands in mapping the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the activities of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the transcendental forms of the Lord, his body in touching the bodies of the devotees, his senses of smell is smelling the scent of the lotus flower offered to the Lord, his tongue is tasting the tulsi leaf offered at the lotus feet of the Lord, his legs is going to the place of pilgrimage and the temple of the Lord, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desire in executing the mission of the Lord. All these transcendental activities are quite befitting a pure devotee. This transcendental stage may be inexpressible subjectively by the followers of the impersonalist path. But it becomes very easy and practical for a person in Krishna consciousness, as is apparent in the above description of the engagement of Maharaj Shambharis. Unless the mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord by constant remembrance, such transcendental engagement are not practical. In devotional service of the Lord, therefore, these prescribed activities are called archana, or engaging all the senses in the service of the Lord. The senses and the mind requires engagement. Simply abnegation is not practical. Not doing anything or trying to get away. Therefore, for people in general, especially those who are not in the renounced order of life, transcendental engagement of the senses and the mind as described above is the perfect process for transcendental achievement, which is called in Bhagavad Gita. So the description here, under the guidance of Lord Krishna, if we are fortunate enough, and in this time and age, we're all fortunate because we have our dear friend, our Gurudev. So we must take this advantage to enter that world, because by simply following his instruction, Krishna is pleased. The Supreme Person is pleased. And when he came here in the Philippines years back, he invited Lord Chaitanya to come and introduce the process that is applicable in this age of quarrel and confusion. Harinama eva kebalam, kolowalang steva gatiranyata. In this age of quarrel and confusion, the easiest way to achieve devotional service, loving service to the Supreme Person, is by chanting the holy names of God. And here, I like to emphasize with the birthday of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself, about the glories of the holy names, that all of us should take advantage and apply in our lives. Lord Chaitanya is telling us, glory to the Sri Sankirtan which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years together. Thus the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death is extinguished. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spread the rays of benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it helps to have a taste of full nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction upon the living beings, and therefore you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna, Govinda, etc. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies, and therefore there is no hard and fast rule for chanting the holy names. O my Lord, you have so kindly made approach to you easy by your holy names, but unfortunate as I am, I have no attraction for them. So when we, by heart, in humility, in humbleness, accept this process, feeling lower than the straw in the street, because since time immemorial, we've been here suffering, we have forgotten our true friend, Lord Krishna. And not only that, we have committed so many obnoxious and abominable activities, but we're still very arrogant. We're being righteous, sanctimonious, feeling holier than others. But because Lord Krishna is so kind, and our dear friend Srila Prabhupada has unconditional love for us, the perfect example of someone who has so much affection for the Supreme Person, that he has so much affection for all living entities, and would want to give them eternal relief. And what is that relief? A connection with Ananda, real transcendental happiness. I have a friend who have been making so much effort, but it seems that he was telling me it's very hard to control the mind. And I said, you must be patient, persevere, be not to be intolerant, have this austerity and this attitude that whatever I experience in my life, I should not feel self-pity, but rather everything that I do, I'm doing it for the pleasure of my Gurudev. That is the austerity we should engage in. Because we're thinking, oh, I'm entitled to experience this happiness, this happiness. But for so long, we have forgotten the Supreme Person. We've been wallowing in this mud. We are blinded by material nature, material disease. We cannot see. But because they're so kind, they give us this wisdom to cure us from our disease. Just like the beloved Son of God, who is a real doctor, who opens people's eyes, just like our Guru Dev. He opens our eyes to see the truth. He gives us this wisdom so we can hear the wisdom, so we can walk, we can see, so the blind man can see. He can see his true nature, that is eternally the loving servant of God. And with this wisdom, he can be guided. And with the embrace of God, as the holy names, which is not different from God, which Lord Chaitanya has introduced to us. One time I saw this picture of a great Vaishnava, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. When I was young, physically, there's this poster inviting people. And the poster I read, he sees God. I'm thinking, he sees God. But as we make progress towards doing what is pleasing to God, we begin to appreciate that everything that is here is God's blessing. It is us who tries to play Lord, who are now under the tumults of material nature. We are now responsible for our actions. And we must become purified from this lordship mentality and this falsely identifying ourselves as this body. We have become so selfish and turn our face from God. We are not experiencing what is sweet because of the influence of lust. So, when a person makes progress, it's not anymore temptation. I want to run away from temptation. But how can you run? When you're covered by the material body, you're covered by the mind. And all the desires are there. The desires must become purified. The mind must become purified. And the only way we can experience that is through the guidance of purification of the heart. And the mind becomes peaceful because now our love is being directed upon, towards the personality that is very sweet, Lord Krishna, the all-attractive Supreme Person. And we are able to appreciate it when we remember the love that our spiritual master is giving us. We want to be under that umbrella, to be always in that world. So that is our austerity while we are in this body. We can be in this body, but with the Lord. When we follow this instruction, this guidance of the dearmost friend of God, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, His Divine Grace, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, who is the dearmost disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. He's inviting us to enter the world of devotional service. That should be our life. So when we enter that world, it's not a struggle anymore. Maya, maya, desire, desire. Because we only follow one personality. And that personality is someone who is doing the will of God. And we are now in harmony with Him by doing the will of God. Just like there's this example our spiritual master is giving us. It is about Haridas Thakur. When Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya of the holy names, he was living in a cave and his disciples wanted him to leave that cave because there's a big snake there. He did not leave that cave and waited for someone to come. This beautiful young lady trying to entice him to engage in contact, in sinful activities, guided by the demons to put Haridas down. But because through the vision, the explanation of His divine grace, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarup, we're able to appreciate the love of Haridas Thakur for that spirit soul. Haridas Thakur put himself in a very precarious situation, alone with a beautiful lady who wanted to entice him to engage in contact. It's not that when that lady came, he felt uneasy, he felt Maya, but rather so much love for the living entity. He chanted the holy names through her ears for days, and the power of the holy names purified her heart. She was able to see her situation, that is, she is engaging in a very nefarious, horrible activity that will lead her to oblivion, to hell, by trying to destroy Haridas Thakur. And through hearing Haridas Thakur, she fell down and begged for forgiveness. I was really touched by what Srila Prabhupada expressed the heart of Haridas Thakur when Haridas Thakur said, I know you're coming. That's why I stayed to save you. Our spiritual master, Jagad Guru, comes to this world to assist us, to give us life, to protect us. If we can appreciate this, we must hold on to this and be protected and be sheltered and enter the transcendental world where we really belong. That's why even though we're in this temporary body, we can be connected with God through His guidance. Haribol, Namaste. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening and participating. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastate Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta-vridam. Okay, come. Haribol, Namaste. Para time natin, lagi ko na tayo. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa iti namine. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine
Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasayate Jaya Jaya Gauranga Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vatsade Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana 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 Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana
Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Haribol, Haribol. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasade. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gopaktabridam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol Namaste. Thank you very much for listening. Haribol Namaste.